Well, speaking of elections, new tonight here on The Current, it takes a lot of money to run them. But every year, Congress is setting aside less and less money to help local offices run their elections. Nationally, Congress gave $425 million for election infrastructure in 2020. By 2023, that number dropped to $75 million. And now this year, Congress has set aside just $15 million for elections all across the country. And that is exactly why a bipartisan group of Illinois election officials traveled to Washington, D.C. last week. They were asking lawmakers for more funding for our local elections. One member of that group was Knox County Clerk and Recorder of Deeds, Scott Erickson, who joins us now here on The Current. Scott, thank you so much for being here with us. I want to start with some of the basics. When we say we need more money for election infrastructure, what is election infrastructure?
Well, that's a big balloon, a big envelope to throw out there. Every county clerk and election official probably has a different idea and a different need for what funding they'd have for those infrastructure dollars. A lot of it is cybersecurity funding to be able to maintain our cybersecurity products. Election equipment. We just went through a request for proposal to buy new voting equipment. We haven't. Last time we did that was 20 years ago. If we had more money in the infrastructure line items that we could have applied for these grants, we could have possibly done that 2 or 3 years ahead of time. But since there was the funding is continually dwindling down, it makes it harder for us to compete for some of those dollars, especially in counties that may be in more stress than we are or have more of an emergency than we see.
And, election infrastructure, does this also cover poll workers and people that help out running the elections?
It helps a little bit in materials and things we can get for them, like electronic poll books to help you on the checking in and making sure the voters are in the right areas. Like I said, it's a broad term that a lot of people use in different aspects of it. But all of my fellow election colleagues are very conscientious of what we do with our equipment, what we do with our money. And we're always looking for the best way to spend those dollars because we understand it comes out of somebody's pocket. It comes out of some other project that didn't get funded because those funds came to us. And that was one of the main missions of the tour out in DC was to kind of remind legislatures of what was going on, why we need these funds, and a cut from $400 million to $15 million it might help them balance their budgets, but it hurts us on our side because now we've got to try to rearrange things to be able to afford to purchase or acquire or maintain what we've got.
So when you hear $15 million for all national elections in 2025, I know it's not a major election year, the midterms aren't happening, but what do you think when you hear that number?
Right. Elections are elections, and security for those elections are security for those elections. It doesn't matter if it's a presidential year where we're seeing 80% turnout or it's a consolidated year where we're only seeing maybe 10 to 15% turnout. All elections are the same. We've got to treat them the same. They run and process the same, which means there's the same threats. All those offices that are being elected are important. We want to make sure that all those offices, the voters are able to vote safely, easily, with confidence, and know that make sure everything is right for their vote, that their vote is counted and that their vote is processed properly. So dropping it down to $15 million, the new voting machines that we purchased were almost $500,000, and that was a baseline purchase. Well, that's just one county out of 108 election authorities in the state of Illinois. We would take that $15 million and wipe it out in a heartbeat.
In just Illinois.
That leaves all other 49 states out to dry. We didn't pitch that. We were pitching the reinstatement of that $400 million limit, and then the maintenance of that $400 million limit, so that we know that 5, 6, 7 years down the road, that money is still going to be there, and we don't have to rush purchases just because we don't know if that funding is going to be available in the next year or not.
So here you have this bipartisan group with yourself, as well as a couple other groups from other states across the country, going to Washington, D.C., asking for $400 million annually to be reinstated for this fund. What did you hear back from the lawmakers that you talked to?
The part of the goal was to let them see and hear from their constituents, to hear from us in the field in the trenches. We're the face of those elections. We're the grassroots of that operation. So we're able to give them stories of why that money is important, what can be done and what isn't being done if those funds aren't available. And we got a very good reception from all the legislators we talked with. We met with 7 legislators out of the Illinois delegation and got positive responses out of everybody. We weren't pushing it. It's not a Republican Democrat thing. It's an elections thing, and it doesn't matter what party affiliated with those elected officials. We're all fighting the same fight. We're all fighting that same battle, and we all have the same concerns and the same needs. Cybersecurity threats don't stop just for small elections. In fact, it could be even more dangerous for a small election because people may sit back on their laurels and not be as attentive to the security protocols as they necessarily need. So having that funding available, having those braces and safeties in place, make it so much easier for us to be able to conduct our business that we need to do. 20 years ago when I came into office, cybersecurity wasn't a thing for elections. It didn't talk about it at all. Then the cyber hacks happen, and now it becomes a foremost priority. When I was president of the State Association of County Clerks and Reporters, was the year that the State Board of Elections in Illinois got hacked. So my tenure in office was working with state, federal resources on formulating the best practices and plans for cybersecurity and cyber defense for our election side of things. And it was just an eye-opening experience to be able to be there and see in a room. You got to sit in the emergency response room in Springfield and talk with FBI, Homeland Security, all these different agencies, and they were listening to us. They were listening to me and my colleagues talk about what was needed and what happens, what we see on election day, and what may be a simple, small, we're not worried about that concern to someone, becomes a big concern to us because those actions could have negative effects on all of our reporting, negative effects on our voters.
Absolutely. And you guys are at the forefront of it all. Scott, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate this.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
If you guys at home want to share this story, you can find our online version at WQ80.com underneath the As Seen on TV tab.